Alright guys, so just wanted to make a quick video on training intensity. So when I refer to intensity, generally speaking about the weight on the bar slash how hard you're pushing. And when it comes to selecting intensity, it's going to be different depending on whether you're a beginner, an intermediate or an advanced trainee. I'll start off with beginner because it's the simplest out of the three. When you're a beginner, essentially every time you come in and train, you should be getting stronger. You should be able to add weight to the bar. So what you want to think about as a beginner is you want to think about the technique and nice clean reps. So you don't want to train too close to failure. Think about a common scale that's used is called the RPE scale, rate of perceived exertion. You want to think about being on a roughly like a 7 to 8 on that scale. So what that means is for any given exercise, you still feel like you have 2 or 3 reps left in the tank. You're not going to total failure. And that's worth elaborating on as well, because failure means different things to different people. There's 2 main types, and what you want to think about is technical failure, not muscular failure. So muscular failure it's pretty simple. It's when someone put a gun to your head, you literally couldn't lift the weight up. Like any way you wanted to, you couldn't get it up. Technical failure is the one that you actually want to think about. And that's defined as when you could execute the lift, but you could only execute it with poor form, i.e. your technique would break down. So let's think of an example. Let's go push-ups. So you're starting off, chugging along, you're doing nice clean reps, like chest all the way to the floor. And then you get to a certain point where you can keep doing them, but the only way you can keep doing them is by arching the heck out of your lower back. Your chest isn't going all the way to the floor anymore. It's not feeling good, but you can still do them. At that point, are you even doing push-ups anymore? You technically are, but you're not getting the most out of them. Your technique is broken down. That's what you want to avoid going to. So if you're aiming for that 7 to 8 on the RPE scale, you want to think about that as a function of technical failure. So to make it a little bit simpler, you always want to stop 1, 2, 3 shots rep, 3 reps short of when your technique starts to break down. The advantage of this is, well, it's pretty obvious. You'll build up clean technique because you're just ingraining that muscle memory. It's also good. It'll limit your intensity. So I think one of the biggest keys to long-term progress is avoiding pushing the intensity too hard too often. As a beginner, if you can complete nice sub-maximal reps, get a lot of volume in on them, keep the technique clean, I think it sets you up for much better long-term progress. It'll take longer before you start to plateau. So I think that pretty much covers beginners. So going on to intermediates, this is when you've got a bit more training history under your belt. You're not necessarily getting stronger workout to workout. Maybe it takes like a week or months. You can't just add weight every time. So now it gets a little bit more complicated. First things first is you should have like a good structured program. But what you also want to start thinking about is the term called autoregulation. I mean, it's a fancy word, but let's see. It's basically just taking into account like life stresses and how you're feeling on the day. So let's see. Good example, if you've gotten like a poor night's sleep, your nutrition hasn't been very good, you haven't eaten enough. If you come into the gym, I mean, automatically you should be feeling not great. That's going to be a good signal that you need to sort of back it down a little bit. The reason for that is just to avoid digging yourself a hole. I mean, depending on how keen you are on the whole training process, a lot of guys, and I say guys, I think we're especially bad at it. When we're feeling bad, we'll just push through it. Just ignore your feelings and just go to maximum. But this is a really easy way to dig yourself a hole that takes a long time to come out of. Like this happened to me, personal experience. Just going too hard, too often, not listening to the body. If you don't feel good, just take some painkillers, just smash some caffeine and just go to max. If you get to the point where you're truly overtrained, it's not a good thing at all. It's something that can take months and months to get out of, and over the long term, you end up in a much worse position than if you would have just gone easy to start with. So this is something you want to start paying attention to. It's more important when you're advanced, but even as an intermediate, you do want to be thinking about this. So again, with intermediates, with a bit more sort of training history under your belt, you can start pushing to heavier attempts. Like you can actually start taking like maximum attempts. Again, not going past technical failure, but you can start pushing heavier, like do 3 rep maxes, 1 rep maxes. The important thing is that you're just not going to max all the time. There's going to be more that I can say on that, but that's it for now. On the advanced side of things, that's when the auto-regulation becomes very important. You're working with higher intensities, more volume. The weights are heavier, they knock you around more. This is where you need to be very sensitive to like how your body's feeling. So if you come in and sometimes you've got a reason for it, like sometimes you haven't slept that good, you know your nutrition hasn't been that good. Some days you can't really put your finger on it, you just come in and it doesn't feel right. When you get into that advanced stage, you know, you've been training for a couple of years, when you come in it just doesn't feel right. That's when you need to like start paying attention to your body. And it's always better to just take one day a little bit lighter rather than having to catch up weeks or months down the road by digging yourself a hole. Because when you start getting up to that more advanced stage, like the weights are heavier, they're going to hit your body harder. Yes, you're stronger, but it still hits your joints quite hard, hits your nervous system quite hard. So you want to start getting in tune with your body, essentially. But that's it for today, guys. I'm sure there'll be more that I can talk about on this subject. It's a big subject, but that was just the bare bones of it for now.